Don't dare to skip this message in between, for you are on the target of Satan. My child, I want you to understand something very plainly. Nothing happening in your life right now is random or accidental. Every pressure you feel, every shift in your emotions, every moment that seems to disrupt your sense of stability is part of a larger movement happening within you. You are being pulled into a deeper awareness of yourself, and that process often feels uncomfortable because it requires you to release parts of your identity that can no longer support who you are becoming. This is not punishment, it is evolution. You are outgrowing people, habits, beliefs, and environments that were once familiar. And this transition can feel like standing between worlds. But you are not stuck between worlds. You are being carried from one level of understanding to another. You have sensed that something is changing, even if you cannot articulate it. That feeling is correct. The internal tension you experience is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that your old way of living cannot contain the next phase of your growth. When you feel agitated, uncertain, restless, or pulled in multiple directions, understand that you are being stretched into greater capacity. You are not losing control of your life. You are shedding layers of limitation that you have carried for far too long. You are being recalibrated so you can function from a higher level of clarity, strength, and discernment. You have also felt resistance, both within yourself and around you. Do not assume that this resistance means something is wrong. Resistance arises when you approach thresholds that demand courage and commitment. Your inner resistance comes from the mind's attachment to familiarity. External resistance often appears when people or circumstances are unable to expand with you. This is normal. Do not cling to what tries to hold you where you no longer belong. You are moving forward because forward is the only direction aligned with who you truly are. Child, I am speaking directly now. You have underestimated your own spiritual and emotional endurance. You think you are fragile because your challenges have been intense. But the truth is that your challenges have been intense because your capacity is enormous. Not everyone could carry what you have carried. Not everyone could remain standing through the experiences that shaped you. But you have, and that strength did not emerge accidentally. There is a foundation inside you that has never been shaken, even when everything else was. That foundation is what enables you to transition into a more powerful phase of your life. You keep waiting for a moment where everything becomes easy and obvious, but clarity does not always arrive before action. Sometimes clarity arrives after you walk through the door. You want certainty before you move, but you are being asked to trust the instincts that have never led you astray. When you feel a pull in your spirit, strong, persistent, unmistakable, that is not imagination. That is the part of you that sees beyond your current limitations. You can trust that voice more than the doubts that rise from fear. Let me speak even more plainly. Your life is not falling apart. It is being reorganized. You are not being weakened. You are being reconditioned. What you interpret as pressure is actually the dismantling of what can no longer remain. What feels like isolation is preparation for alignment with people who match your growth. What appears to be confusion is the stripping away of illusions. You are not in decline. You are in transition. And transition always feels like instability until the new structure becomes visible. You worry that you are being pulled into something overwhelming, but you are actually being led into something that finally matches the depth of who you are. You have outgrown environments where you had to shrink yourself just to maintain peace. You have outgrown relationships where you had to suppress your truth to avoid conflict. You have outgrown patterns that used to soothe you but now drain you. This is why your tolerance for the familiar has decreased. Your spirit is refusing to return to what no longer elevates you. Understand this. You do not need fear to remain vigilant. You do not need anxiety to remain alert. You do not need chaos to feel alive. You have been trained by past experiences to brace yourself for disappointment, but that mindset has run its course. You are stepping into a phase that requires openness, not self-defense. It requires awareness, not hypervigilance. It requires self-respect, not self-sacrifice. You are being guided toward people, environments, and opportunities that require the most authentic version of you, not the guarded or diminished version. Child, you have been asking for change while trying to keep your life the same. That is why you feel torn. You want transformation, but you also want predictability. You want expansion, but you also fear losing what is familiar. You want truth, but you fear what truth will demand from you. These conflicts are normal, but they must be acknowledged. You cannot step into your next phase while holding on to beliefs that were formed in a version of yourself that no longer exists. Release the internal contradictions that keep you stuck. Decide who you want to be and allow that identity to take form. There is something else I want you to understand clearly. What you perceive as spiritual attack is often spiritual activation. The pressure around you intensifies because the energy within you is increasing. When you evolve, you disrupt old frequencies. You stir dormant potential. You awaken parts of yourself that have been silent. And when dormant potential awakens, it creates friction with anything that cannot support it. This friction is not a sign of danger. It is a sign of emergence. Your intuition has been sharpening, even when you doubted it. You have been sensing things before they happen, feeling shifts in people before they reveal themselves, and recognizing patterns you used to overlook. This is not imagination. This is you becoming more aligned with the deeper intelligence within you. The more you trust this inner intelligence, the more clearly you will navigate your path. Stop dismissing the guidance that rises from your own depth. You have searched outside yourself for answers you already carry. You have asked for signs while ignoring the ones already given. You have questioned your direction while feeling the unmistakable pull of what you are meant to do. You do not lack guidance. You lack confidence in the guidance you receive. Learn to trust the internal signals. They are not random. They are not accidental. They are not mere instincts. They are the compass that has been trying to lead you for years. Child, the time for hesitation is ending. You cannot remain in a state of almost awakening. The next phase of your life requires clarity, courage, and honesty. It requires you to stop abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. It requires you to stop negotiating your worth. It requires you to stop dimming your truth. Step fully into who you are becoming. Do not wait for permission from anyone, not from your past, not from your fears, not from the people who never understood you. Your next chapter begins when you decide that you are done living smaller than your potential. Your next chapter unfolds when you stop running from the changes you prayed for. Your next chapter activates when you accept that transformation is not meant to feel safe. It is meant to feel real. And what is real is that you are becoming stronger, clearer, and more spiritually grounded than you have ever been. My child, listen with full attention. I am speaking now to the part of you that has felt pressure from every direction, the part of you that wonders why life has felt heavier than what you see others carrying. You have noticed that when you try to rise, something pushes back. When you try to grow, something attempts to hold you still. When you begin to understand your own strength, something tries to convince you that you are powerless. You have felt targeted, challenged, resisted, and you are correct. But not because you are weak. Not because you are fragile, not because you are cursed. You experience resistance because you are significant. I need you to understand, directly and without confusion, why the darker forces of this world, the forces of despair, distortion, and destruction, have taken interest in you. It is not because you are vulnerable. It is because you are valuable. You carry qualities that disrupt anything built on deceit. You carry an inner clarity that threatens confusion. You carry empathy that softens cruelty. You carry a spirit that refuses to collapse under pressure. You carry resilience that exposes the futility of fear. You carry potential that frightens anything invested in suppression. The symbolic Satan you speak of is not a creature hunting you. It is the accumulation of every force that benefits from your silence, your self-doubt, your exhaustion, and your disbelief in your own purpose. These forces do not fear you because of your flaws. They fear you because of your capacity. They fear what you will become when you finally step fully into yourself. They fear the clarity you are growing into. They fear the strength you have not yet realized you possess. You are targeted because, even in your uncertainty, you carry influence. You change atmospheres without trying. You lift others even when you are tired. You break cycles simply by refusing to repeat the mistakes you have seen. You carry a depth of understanding that cannot easily be manipulated. You question what others blindly follow. You sense truth before it is spoken. You see beyond appearances. You feel injustice even when it is subtle. This awareness is dangerous to anything that thrives on confusion, chaos, and complacency. The symbolic adversary is not after your possessions, your achievements, or your outward life. Those things do not matter. What it wants is much deeper and far more important. It wants your clarity because clarity leads to empowerment. It wants your peace because a peaceful mind is impossible to control. It wants your confidence because confidence leads to influence. It wants your hope because hope is the foundation of transformation. And most of all, it wants your identity, because identity is where your true power lives. If you forget who you are, you become easy to discourage. If you forget your direction, you become easy to discourage. If you forget your direction, you become easy to distract. And distraction is one of the most effective forms of destruction, because you cannot fulfill a purpose you are too scattered to see. The forces that work against you do not fear your past, they fear your future. They fear what will happen when you stop doubting your intuition, stop silencing your voice, stop dimming your potential, and stop apologizing for your strength. That is why you have been pressured, because you are approaching the point where you will no longer be controllable by anything that once confined you. You have always been sensitive to energies around you. You absorb the emotions of others, often unknowingly. You feel tension even before anyone speaks. You sense dishonesty without proof. This sensitivity has been used to make you feel overwhelmed, but it is also the source of your greatest insight. You are someone who can perceive what others overlook, and that makes you a threat to anything built on hiding, manipulating, or confusing. You are not targeted because you are weak. You are targeted because you see through illusions. Child, I want to speak clearly. The symbolic Satan wants to interrupt your alignment with yourself. It wants to break the connection between who you are and who you are becoming. It wants you to believe that your life is random, your struggles meaningless, your progress accidental. Because if you believe that, you stop growing, you become discouraged. You freeze. And a frozen soul cannot transform the world around it. But hear me, discouragement is not insight. Confusion is not intuition. Fear is not wisdom. These emotions arise to cloud your perception, not to guide it. They whisper doubt in moments of vulnerability. They exaggerate small setbacks. They distort your interpretation of yourself. They present temporary challenges as permanent conditions. They try to convince you that the path forward is impossible, when in truth, it is already unfolding beneath your feet. You have asked, why me? Why am I being attacked? But the real question is, why am I such a threat? And the answer is simple. Because you carry a purpose that cannot be destroyed, only delayed. You carry influence that cannot be erased, only buried. You carry potential that cannot be stolen, only smothered. And even when you have been smothered, you have continued to rise. You are targeted because you rise even when you do not try. Your very existence disrupts patterns of negativity. Your presence shifts the energy of a room. You provoke reflection in others simply by being authentic. You inspire hope without giving a speech. You soften wounded hearts simply by showing compassion. Do you understand the magnitude of this? You do not need force to make an impact. You influence simply by being. This is what the symbolic adversary wants from you. It wants your surrender. It wants you exhausted enough that you stop fighting for your growth. It wants you discouraged enough that you stop believing in your potential. It wants you distracted enough that you stop listening to your intuition. It wants you bitter enough that your empathy hardens. It wants you hopeless enough that you numb yourself with anything that empties you. And most of all, it wants you detached from yourself, because a person disconnected from themselves becomes disconnected from their purpose. Your purpose does not need a title. It does not need recognition. It does not require you to be perfect or prepared. Your purpose is the natural expression of who you are when you are aligned, when you are honest, when you are awake. And that is exactly why opposition rises, because alignment is dangerous to anything built on misalignment. The symbolic adversary benefits every time you hesitate, every time you second-guess yourself, every time you shrink yourself to fit into places you have outgrown. Every time you silence your truth to avoid conflict, the world becomes slightly dimmer. Every time you absorb emotions that do not belong to you, your clarity becomes clouded. Every time you suppress your inner wisdom, your direction becomes harder to see. You have been targeted not to destroy you, but to distract you long enough that you never activate the fullness of who you are. But hear me, you are reaching the point where distractions will no longer work on you. You are becoming too aware, too conscious, too inwardly strong, and that is what intensifies the pressure. It is the final attempt to keep you from crossing into your true strength. When someone is close to transformation, resistance often grows louder. It is not because you are failing. It is because you are rising beyond what old forces can influence. You are targeted because you are stepping into vision. You are beginning to see what truly matters. You are learning what drains you and what nourishes you. You are recognizing people who cannot accompany your growth. You are shedding identities you once clung to. You are recognizing beliefs that were never yours to begin with. This clarity is not merely self-improvement. It is spiritual recalibration. And anything that thrives on confusion cannot tolerate a person who is becoming clear. You are targeted because you are no longer numb. You are becoming sensitive in the right ways, aware of lies, aware of manipulation, aware of emptiness disguised as comfort. You are waking up to energies that once influenced you without your knowledge. You are recognizing cycles in your family, your relationships, your history. You are breaking them simply by refusing to continue them. This is why the symbolic adversary reacts, because cycles break when one person chooses consciousness over repetition. Understand this: the adversarial force wants you to feel powerless. If you believe you are powerless, you will not try. If you do not try, you remain in the same patterns. The symbolic adversary wants stagnation, because stagnation prevents awakening. You are not meant to remain where you have been. You are meant to evolve beyond every limitation placed on you, both internally and externally. And this evolution terrifies anything invested in your stagnation. The symbolic adversary does not want your destruction. Destruction is too obvious, too noticeable. What it wants is subtle. It wants your slow disengagement from your inner life. It wants you to stop asking questions. It wants you to abandon your curiosity. It wants you to drift emotionally. It wants you to numb yourself with distractions. Because when you disconnect from your inner world, you lose access to your power. And your power is your awareness, your ability to see what is real, to feel what is true, to choose what aligns with your spirit instead of what numbs your fears. I am telling you this now so you can recognize when these forces attempt to sway you. When you feel sudden discouragement without clear reason, understand that it is not insight, it is interference. When you feel confusion after moments of clarity, understand that it is not intuition, it is disruption. When you feel isolated or forgotten, understand that it is not reality, it is distortion. These emotional influences are attempts to bend your perception, not reflections of truth. You have been asking for truth, and truth is being given to you, but truth requires awareness. Truth requires courage. Truth requires that you do not run from the discomfort of seeing things clearly. And the symbolic adversary knows that once you embrace truth fully, you become immune to its influence. My child, you are not meant to fear this opposition. You are meant to understand it. You are meant to grow stronger because of it. Pressure reveals your resilience. Resistance reveals your capacity. Darkness reveals your inner light. Confusion reveals your need for clarity. Everything that rises against you reveals something about you: your power, your endurance, your direction, your purpose. The reason you are targeted is because you are entering a stage of life where you will no longer be controlled by fear, guilt, or confusion. You are beginning to think for yourself, feel for yourself, and choose for yourself with clarity. You are beginning to break chains that have existed for generations. You are beginning to understand the difference between what drains you and what strengthens you. You are beginning to reclaim the parts of yourself that you abandoned to survive. This is the kind of transformation that frightens anything invested in keeping people asleep. But hear me clearly. You are not in danger. You are in transition. You are not being attacked because you are vulnerable. You are being challenged because you are impactful. You are not being hunted. You are being watched by forces that hope you will surrender before you realize who you are. Do not surrender. You are closer to your breakthrough than you think. The intensity you feel is not a sign of defeat. It is a sign of nearing completion. Child, what the symbolic adversary wants is irrelevant, because what it wants cannot overpower who you are becoming. You will rise. You will see clearly. You will outgrow what once confined you. You will activate gifts you have not touched yet. You will walk paths you once believed were unreachable. And every force that once tried to discourage you will lose its influence. Amen.